It all began in June of 2018 with their very first rig, the CR24, a 24-scale microcrawler that made a big impression. And then, just when the scene started to heat up, boom, Axial dropped the SCX24 with warm gears and a new direction. But Hobby Plus, they had a different vision. They believed that ring and pinion setups were the future, not for 24 though, but for 18th scale. So they went for it. By late 2019, they launched the first 1/18th scale crawler in the world, setting the bar for an entire new size class in the hobby. Then, just as things were gaining momentum, COVID hit. Factories stalled and the industry paused. Hobby Plus shifted gears to stay alive, taking on OEM work for international brands just to keep the lights on. But they weren't done yet. In late 2021, they came roaring back with the CR18P, a portal axle evolution of their original platform. Bigger ideas, smarter design, and it was all done in-house. Molding, tooling, manufacturing, 100% Hobby Plus. You can see the culmination of this in their Arctos 6x6, probably one of the best 18-scale releases of that year. This is the story of a brand that's not just riding the wave, they helped build it.
Welcome back to the shop, Mini RC everybody. I'm Ken, and today we're looking at a new Hobby Plus truck. One of the first trucks to really kind of get them on the map was this 2-speed, the CR18P for Portal Evo. Kind of helped put Hobby Plus a little bit more in the forefront. Definitely moved them forward with the micro crawler, mini crawler market. Fantastic truck, but there were still some issues with it. It's got just friction dampened shocks, a little bouncy there, but the 2-speed was really something cool and innovative from them, as well as the portals. They did have the CR24s and an old school CR18, but not on portals, and then the Evo brought the 2-speed. So the Evo is kind of the denotion of 2-speed. So what we've got now, though, is the CR18P Evo V2. And this guy has a ton of new upgrades, and you can see now we've got some offerings that we didn't have before with the Evo. They did release the Rock Van at one point. We can show that later. And then the Convoy, which is a body that they've used before, but never on the CR18P, and obviously never on the Evo. So let's dive into this thing. We got the green Convoy. Let's check it out, guys. Like I said, a bunch of awesome new stuff. Full metal gear drivetrain, oil-filled big bore shocks, which is awesome, and then PPX4 grade water-resistant electronics. There's the specs. If you want to see those, you can always pause and read it. Again, we got this guy, the green, and then here's those new features for the Evo V2. Again, the big stuff's going to be those oil-filled shocks. Servo on axle. Did the original not have servo on axle? We'll look at that. I don't remember. That's interesting. And then, yeah, all metal gears, metal 2-speed, counter-rotating drive shaft, which is good. Servo winch mount, huh? That's cool. Yeah. All right, let's open her up. Nice. This part's always fun. Let's unwrap this guy. What? Colorado license plate. That's about the coolest. I mean, it's kind of squished, which sucks, but it's a Colorado license plate. That's freaking awesome. CR18P Evo with a Colorado green plate. That's the classic. Not the most classic, but pretty classic. Is there one on the back? Oh, there is. Let's go, Hobby Plus. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Ooh, look at that. It's got nice texture in there. Good details. It is stickers. These are hard molded though, which is awesome. Sticker there, but still looks good. The details are good. Chrome molded bumper, chrome molded grille. It's a great looking truck, man. Light buckets in our roof lights here, or roll bar lights, Casey lights, but there's light buckets so you can throw LEDs in there. That's pretty sweet. Even a reverse or brake light here. Rear view mirror. Yeah, these wheels look pretty good. Tires feel all right. Little stiff maybe. Again, tires are always going to depend on the terrain that you have, where you're crawling, altitude, temperature, humidity, all that's going to matter. Does feel like there's foams in there. Maybe. We'll check it out. We'll open up a tire. And there she is underneath. A little bit. It's got sliders here. Transmitter we're all very familiar with. If you buy any Hobby Plus or any of the other brands out there that are along this line, a lot of them come with this transmitter. And then we've got our Evo V2 instruction manual. USB charger. I'd highly recommend getting a hobby grade charger if you're getting into these guys. These will work if you don't have anything else, but hobby grade charger is where it's at. And then our little T-wrench. I think we need more T-wrenches. And that's just, all the rest kind of just go in the trash. Anyway, let's go ahead and open this guy up. I want to look inside and see what's different. We'll compare it to the other previous CR18Ps. And we'll probably do a comparison to some other rigs as well. How is this set up? It looks like it's got two body clips here on the bottom. And then this guy just flips open forward. We do have lights. Looks like we have tail lights and headlights. So that's awesome. We'll see how controllable they are. First things first, our battery here. Got that 600 milliamp hour 2S LiPo on one of the old school low-C plugs. Pretty standard for the Hobby Plus stuff. Let's look at this chassis. There you go. Lots of adjustment there, which I really dig, even in the back with the bumper. Looks like you can adjust things here. Got lots of shock adjustments here, which is great. Shock adjustments here, potentially, even a shock tower there. It's interesting they have a shock tower with like body mount holes, right? For like posts, if you want to put posts in there or something. Something, I don't know what these are for. Maybe these are for the rock van. Not totally sure why they have these posts, but not posts, but like slots for posts. And then even mounts up here. None of these look to be threaded, so they're all going to need a nut on the back side for your shock adjustment, which they do have. The fronts don't, though. So if you need to, you're going to have to get a spacer and a nut if you want to move these back to these other positions here. Because the shock tower mount here has the spacer there, but if you go into the chassis, you don't have a spacer, so you need to get a little spacer, similar to this. Slide it over the screw, and then a nut for the back of that screw. Anyway, all right. Our sliders here. I kind of wish they changed this design. I'm not really the biggest fan of these. I wish it was more of a flat, just like a nice slider, right? Like a solid piece of plastic. Don't really like that these are exposed. You end up kind of getting caught on rocks and stuff. It's really set up for more of a trail rig than a hardcore rock crawler. If you're going to run this as a hardcore rock crawler, you'd probably just completely pull these sliders off because you don't want to be getting caught on stuff. And again, it'd be different if they were solid sliders, right? If they were solid, then they'd be helpful because when you hit on a rock, you can help slide and less likely to get hung up on things. But when it's kind of posts like this, yeah, that's a problem. Everything's nice and set up in here, though. Our ESC's sitting right up here on top. Our motor, pretty low. Looks like a good-sized motor in there. It's nice and low and forward, so it gets us some forward weight bias. We'll weigh this guy out and check our 60/40, see if it's there. Compression gets us almost touching that motor. So it's about as low as you're going to be able to get that big motor. Like I said, on the old ones, we have a smaller motor, so I'll show you that when we start to compare. We are on portals, all plastic links. We are set up with our reverse rotation drive shaft. These axles are good because if you need to, if you want to flip it for some reason, you're able to flip the diff on these. These are a newer designed rear end, so you can pop this diff cover off, flip your differential, and then your diff cover can flip, and you'll be able to reverse it. So even with like a 6x6, if you want to try to do a 6x6 setup of some kind, you have to reverse the rotation of the axles. So yeah, right now it's set up with reverse rotation though out of the box, and that means that this drive shaft spins the opposite direction of this drive shaft. See that? And that's going to help prevent torque twist. So torque twist is when you give it throttle and your truck kind of does this. And that's because there's resistance in the drive line compared to the chassis. So the transmission is trying to spin these drive shafts and the axles and the wheels and tires. And there's resistance on the ground, resistance just in the drive line itself. So that transmission is twisting this, which is causing the whole truck to kind of just twist with the drive shafts. So reverse rotation or counter rotation helps prevent that or reduce it. It doesn't always prevent it, but it reduces it because they're going opposite directions. So the front's going this way and the rear's going that way. So it just kind of helps keep the chassis stable under throttle, under torque. So that's good. There's a 2-in-1 with the ESC receiver combo. It's Fly Sky, so it's a quality. Lots of open spots here for different light controls. It looks like these are light control slots. And then we have a 1, 2, and 3, or sorry, 1, 3, and 4 channels. So we could put a winch on here, potentially, stuff like that. Our transmitter should have that. We'll go over this more in detail, but it looks like we do have our channel 4 there. It's also usually used to control the light. So we'll see how that's set up with the light controller. But definitely a cool setup. I like that there's no body posts showing through, right? That's awesome. And it keeps it nice and clean and scale. I do wish this was an easy remove. I kind of wish that they would design it. I guess it's just 2 screws. You can just pop those off, and the front should come off, no problem. Let's go ahead and do that. It's all hex hardware, which is awesome. I think there's only a couple spots where you'll have Phillips. And those are going to be the servo horn. I think the servo mount here. Yeah, the servo mount here is a Phillips. And then probably drive shafts. Yeah, little Phillips in the drive shafts. But everywhere else is all hex hardware, at least that I can see. And there we go. So it looks like you could pull it off that way, or you could probably have just pulled off these 2 screws and slid these little posts out. Either way works. These do have little nubs, so you have to kind of separate the chassis a little bit. Either way, you can easily pull off that body. You do have all your wiring for your lights, though, so I'm not going to pull that off right now. That gets you a nice look there. I wish the battery was more forward at some point somehow. I mean, we could have put it up here, but then it'd be high. So I guess it's better to have it more back and lower than it is to have it too far forward and high. But getting that weight bias distribution is going to be hard with this big battery in the back. But we'll see where they're at once we start to weigh it. You could also always try to put mounts here, right? Which I am a huge fan of, putting your battery on your sliders here. So we've done some mods on our previous trucks, so I can show you that. We just piece of plastic there so you can mount the battery there, no problem. Use rubber bands to hold it in, pretty easy. But yeah, shift servo. Let's see how that shift servo is set up. Let's go ahead and power it up. Get some batteries in the transmitter, powered up. We're all charged up. We've got our AAAs in here, 4 AAAs. Little pro tip. I put little hair bands or even braces bands around my batteries. And basically all my batteries have a little band around them. And I use that band to tell if a battery is fully charged, storage charged, or empty and needs storage charged. So if a battery's like sitting like this, I know it needs to be storage charged. So I can't just let it sit for months without, storage charging it. And then once it's storage charged, I can just tuck under my balance cable here. And I know that it's safe to let sit for months if I'm not going to use it, because I have so many batteries. But it's just made it easier as my collection of RCs has grown to know what my charge state is without having to check. You can use a lipo checker and check every battery, but this is super easy. I can say, oh, that one, we're good to go. Or if we're tucked like the lead is tucked, I know that battery needs to be ran. That battery is fully charged and I can't let it sit. I need to either run it or I need to put it into storage mode. So huge, huge benefit of being able to quickly look with just this little rubber band. And it's super simple and super cheap. I mean, get like a whole bag for like $5. And there's 3 sizes. I got like, I think all these, and there were a ton more. I've used so many of them, but like, I think it's $5 on Amazon for these 3 different sizes. These are for my big lipos, medium lipos, and then our small lipos like these. Anyway, just thought I'd share that with you guys. Let's go ahead and dive into this transmitter and actually go ahead and put our battery in. Battery's held in with rubber bands, which is nice. Makes it easy. I used to use Velcro to hold in my batteries on different rigs. I've really got away from that because depending on where you move that battery into a different rig, the Velcro might need to be in a different orientation. Just became a pain in the butt. So I like rubber bands. They work real well. You can kind of put them anywhere. All right, so we're going to go ahead and transmitter on. I like to start my rig when I turn it on off the ground, just in case there's something wrong with the trims. Turn it on. There we go. We are good. And we've got power. 2-speed. Woohoo! She's a ripper. Feels really smooth, actually. Sounds smooth. Yeah, we'll see how that modulation is at low speed when we run it. This is a 3 position on channel 3. So there's a middle position, so you can rev it your buddies. Make it sound like it's running. And then our high and low. Okay, so our channel 4 looks like it's a press and hold for the lights, maybe, or are they just always on? Looks like the lights might just always be on. Oh no, it's just a tap. Taps through a couple different modes there. Off, on, high, nothing, nothing, off. So I assume these other modes where it's going through and you go nothing, nothing, off. Those are probably things like reverse lights, turn signals, stuff like that to turn on and off. And you can see here, like I said, on this ESC receiver combo, there's a bunch of different, there's F, RH, rear LH, LR. So like a whole bunch. Right now we're just in the, looks like the RH plug. So, I mean, if I was to change this over to the other plugs, you can see, is that a signal? Is that a forward, reverse? Forward, reverse? What is that? There we go. So that's just another one of the settings. So that could be like your lights up here if you wanted. You could run the wire into there and it'd be a separate mode on here. That was actually the last one right before they all turn off. So yeah. So that's cool that you've got a lot of different light options here. If you want to do a scaled out rig with some good lights, this light controller is fantastic. More on this transmitter. We've got our reverse steering, our reverse throttle, in case you need to reverse those for some reason. We have our steering dual rate, steering trim. Dual rate is how far it will turn. Are we all the way up there? Yep. Trim is obviously the center, whether you're centered or slightly off. So if your truck's just turning by itself, you want to use your trim. Our throttle dual rate, that's the speed of your throttle. So if I go ahead and give this full throttle, you can turn it down with your dual rate here. That way, if you've got kids running it or you're trying to do something technical and you don't have the ability to have really good throttle control, you're just not, maybe you're newer and you want it to be a little slower, you can do that and you still have your 2-speed, but you can turn that guy all the way up. I like to turn it down for the kiddos though. And then our throttle trim, which is kind of our center point of our throttle. If we adjust that, you'll see the truck will go by itself. Okay, so we like to make sure that's centered. Make sure you're not making, your motor's not making any kind of whine or noise like it's getting power. And you'll know you're centered. Our bind button here, super simple. If this thing for some reason becomes unbound, you basically just have everything turned off, hold the bind button, turn on the rig or the transmitter, it'll blink, then you turn on the rig and it should bind and you should have all your stuff. If it doesn't, just power cycle your remote here and it should bind up. So super simple there. These dip switches, the first dip switch is our drive mode. So if we flip this first dip switch down, we'll have forward, brake, reverse, and that's more for bashing or people that like trail rigs that they can go fast with and then hit a brake, right? And then you have to let go and then you can reverse. So forward, brake, let go, reverse. And then if you put it all the way up, you're in crawl mode, which is just forward, reverse. The next one is kind of antiquated. I wish they'd do something different with it, but it's LiPo versus nickel metal hydride. It basically is your low voltage cutoff on your receiver and ESC. So if you have it down, it's on LiPo, which means it will shut the truck motor and the power to the motor down once your voltage gets too low. So you'll only have steering. So if you ever only have steering and you have no throttle, know that it's probably because your battery is low. The voltage has gotten low and it's trying to protect your battery from going too low. If your batteries go too low, you will damage them. They will puff up. You don't want to go too low on a LiPo battery. So this helps protect that. If you're running nickel metal, you want to drop the voltage all the way down until the battery is completely dead. So you'll flip that switch up. But I don't think many people are going to run nickel metal in these guys. And then these last two are for your drag brake. You're basically going to have 0, 25, 0, 50, 75, 100. Either way, I'll put a little chart up over here. That way you know what those settings are, but between those two switches you get 4 different drag brake settings. And drag brake is basically just how much resistance the truck has to the motor. So if you turn up your drag brake, the motor will help hold the truck and stop it from rolling. That way when you're on steep inclines and whatnot. Some people like to have just a little bit of drag brake. Some people that are bashers and trailers don't want any drag brake. They just want to be able to let off the throttle and the truck just kind of keeps rolling. But if you're doing some hardcore crawling, you kind of want enough drag brake to where your truck doesn't just roll backwards down a hill when you let off the throttle. So that's what that is. Pretty simple. Kind of wish there was a foam on this transmitter, but it is what it is. I love these transmitters though. They're nice, they're durable. The plastic quality is very good. They have a decent weight to them. They don't feel so light that they're cheapy feeling, but they're also not like super heavy. And again, I have big hands and they feel good. I can just throw them in the backpack, throw the rig in the backpack. They're perfect for these small guys here for sure. And yeah, I've never had an issue with these transmitters. They're great. All right, what else we got here? How's our steering feel? Do we have a decent servo here? Again, servo on axle on this guy. Oh yeah, it's got some power. And some pull-ups here. So yeah, decent servo here. And it is servo on axle. Like I said, we'll compare it to the other trucks here in just a second, and I can show you kind of the differences there. Nice oil-filled shocks with aluminum caps, aluminum adjustable collars, plastic link ends, plastic end here, plastic body. I do like the plastic link ends. When you hit an impact, you have a little bit of flex, right? Kind of like this, flex. When they're aluminum though, or it's all metal shock, sometimes you'll just bend your shaft. And I'd rather have a little bit of flex in the plastic on the links, on the ends here. And that just kind of gives a little bit of durability to that shock shaft, helps prevent it from breaking or bending. What else we got? I don't know. I dig the chassis rails, nice milled chassis rails. Looking good. I just want to make this comment, just in case Hobby Plus is listening. In the future, when you do light setups on these trucks like this, ideally, I think you want to run your single 2 wires here, because remember, this is just a 2-wire right here. Run that all the way to the body, right? And then have this piece inside the body potentially, and then you can have a simple plug to unplug it. It can be basically like a plug like this. Any kind of just two-wire plug would be totally fine to have, and I can just unplug it and pull the body off. Like having that would be super awesome. Unfortunately, even with this, there's so many wires right here. You'd have to have the plug all the way back here, which would be fine too, I guess. But we'd have to cut all of our zip ties to pull this body off. And I don't want to have to cut all the zip ties to pull the body off. If we just had a plug right here, because this was just 2 wires and this bundle was all up in here, it would be so much easier just to unplug it. That would be such a cool not modification, but cool update on maybe a V3 or any future rigs that are going to have light systems. That'd be super nice. Well, this is cool. I clipped the zip tie that was here, was able to pull this out, and this actually wasn't going through the zip tie. So I appreciate that. It was just tucked in like so, and I was able to just kind of slide it through and pull it out of the zip tie. So now we can pull the body off. So you really only have to clip one zip tie, this front one, to get that out, which is not horrible. I appreciate that. That's good. If they ran it through the zip tie, that would have kind of sucked. But it looks like all this stuff is just kind of folded and put through there. So yeah, definitely nice. All right, so let's go ahead and compare. So here is the first CR18P. We'll kind of see the evolution, if you will. I'm not going to pull this guy all the way off, but you can see it's just a single speed transmission with like a 130 sized motor. 130. Now we're, I think, a 150. No, this is a 130 as well. So actually, is that the same size? Whoa. That's not a 130. This is a 130. Is this also a 130? This is a 180. So it's a 180 55 turn. So it's definitely a bigger motor. That's a 130, so it's a little bit shorter. You can see the comparison there maybe. It's a little shorter than the 150 55 turn. And this is also a 100 turn. So 55 turn is going to have more torque. And then this guy's just this tiny little, I don't remember what size that is. 030? 050? This is an 050. 050 versus an 030 would be the shorter guy. Anyway, same ESC though, looks like on all of these. They're all using that same 2-in-1 combo. So nice light kits on all of them. But again, single speed transmission here and tiny motor. And then look, this motor is right in the way of the links. So you can't have an upper link there. Okay, so they had to remove that upper link and just do the 2 lower links and 1 side link. And then also the servo for steering is chassis mounted. So that is not always ideal. Having your servo mounted to your axle really helps get your center of gravity low. It also prevents things like bump steer, which having a proper link here, this is not sway bar, but I'm spacing out what that's called right now. Put down in the comments below what the link is right here. Sway bar? It maybe does a sway bar. Either way, you have to have a link here, which also hurts your compression a little bit sometimes. I don't know if you can see that in there. Put that guy back there. Yeah, hurts your compression and your articulation. Great for scale, but not good for more performance-based. And then even the Evo here, which this is the CR18P, this is the CR18P Evo. Now we've got the 2-speed transmission. Still has only a single link on the side, even though they had room for it. They still only had that single link. Also, again, some really bad shocks. They're more just friction dampeners, and still servo on chassis versus servo on axle. Now the new V2, full 4-link, all the way, full 4-link. Looks like even our drive shafts are much beefier now. Look at that size of that drive shaft. We can go ahead and measure that real quick for you, just so you can see the difference. I think this guy's using the same drive shafts as that. Yeah, these are, what is that, 6.3 millimeters, 6.5, 6.4 front rear. And then this guy's gonna be much beefier, 7.5, almost 8. 8 on the front on that little stubby. Is that 8? Yeah, 7.9. 7.8, 7.9, somewhere in there. So much beefier drive shafts, which is good. I think our links might even be beefier here. 4? No, they're both 4s. For some reason, they look a little beefier. Maybe not. Either way, definitely better shocks. Like I said, these shocks are just no good. And there's our mounts. So you can see if these are the body mounts. That's what those are from. They're square posts, square body mount posts. They can go in there if you want to put a different body on there. Makes it super simple. You can see we moved our battery tray. I actually just moved it up, took it out of these 2 slots, moved the battery tray up. And it just kind of hangs like this, but it works totally fine. And it'll get our battery a little bit more forward for us versus being back here. It's a little bit more forward. So I may end up doing the same thing on this guy, just sliding that battery forward and letting it sit. That battery tray sits on top of the servo here. It doesn't actually touch the servo horn at all. It just sits on the servo case. And yeah, so you can see it's going to change that rear bias, front to rear bias quite a bit. What else? What else? What else? Looks like we used to have our power switch underneath. Now it's on top, so you do have to pull the body or get your finger up in there versus just doing it from the bottom. But I do kind of like that. I'm not really the biggest fan, especially if you pull off your sliders like we did on this guy. Actually, I don't remember if it came with sliders, but if you don't have sliders, you pull them off and then you can get hit rocks on there or hit your power switch. Not ideal. So having it up and out of the way is always a good thing. Everything else, though, very similar. It's going to be the same axles as far as the design. These are, again, updated. You can see here that the old axle housing had that kind of cutout so that the differential or the spool had to be on one side. Now it's more squared off, which, I mean, I think I like this a little better anyway because it kind of gives you a slider almost. So if you hit rocks on there, you slide versus on here, you just have more places to get kind of hung up, right? Kind of get caught in there, whereas this is a little bit more smooth. So I think it's a better design. Well, it is a better design overall just because you can flip the diff, and I think from a slider standpoint, from a not getting caught up. The fronts are still the same though, same housing there. Again, this is all metal gears in the portals, all metal gears in the diffs. Everything's metal gears in here. All metal diffs in the transmission versus this has plastic gears. Some of the gears in there are plastic. Overall though, a lot of great upgrades, Definitely worth getting. If you were on the edge about getting an Evo and you wanted kind of the brushed trail rig style, not necessarily an Evo Pro, maybe that's out of your price range or not exactly what you're looking for, I think this is going to be it. Especially, I mean, if you've been looking at an Evo anyway, there's no reason to get the old guy, unfortunately. There's just so much stuff you need to upgrade to get to this point. And then this guy, Rock Van's awesome, but man, this transmission and motor was weak. It was very underpowered. Did not feel good. So very cool that now we have a new Rock Van. Check out the pictures of these guys. The new Rock Van, new livery, pretty awesome. We'll probably be getting one of these at some point. That livery was done by Van DeWitt of the Microcrawler Club, so shout out to him for doing an awesome job on designing some of the new livery on the Rock Vans. Very cool. So if you're looking for a Rock Van 2-speed on the new stuff, I think that's definitely worth getting. And I love the Convoy body. I think this body is awesome looking. Kind of wish they offered a couple other colors. I don't dislike this color. This color is great. I just know that people like specific colors. So hopefully they'll come out with a couple other colors, or, you know, you can pick up the clear body if you want to change it over. I think that's about it. The old ones are on 1.2s. The new ones on 1.2s. These new wheels are definitely better though. I mean, they just look better, right? With the chrome, it's kind of like a dark chrome, which is nice, a black chrome. I was getting tired of seeing these. A lot of the RTRs were coming with these. If they were based on the Hobby Plus, they all had those wheels. Now we've got something a little nicer, a little better. Yeah. All right, I want to go ahead and bang out a couple comparisons to some of the other trucks. We already showed the previous Hobby Plus stuff. Here is a Scout from Red Cat. So they're basically the same size. Scout's a little tiny shorter on that wheelbase. Same width for the most part though. So that's a Red Cat Scout. Oh, we got to show this, right? Boom. Fits right on there. It's just a little wide for the bed, but these fold down thankfully. But yeah, we can fit our Convoy on our Arctos. Looks pretty good. I dig that. Guess the other Hobby Plus, we'll do the juiced up. Same length wheelbase, much wider track though, because there's hex extenders on that juice up. Okay. Adventure 18 from HPI. Basically also built on a very similar Hobby Plus style platform. Axles are going to be the same, I believe, except straight axles, but there's going to be some minor differences, but overall, same scale. They look great next to each other. Yeah, buddy. FMS, this is the FCX 24 Power Wagon, a little shorter, much shorter wheelbase. More of a 20th scale, almost 18th scale. The K5 version of this is definitely an 18th scale, not a 24 scale. So just to compare 24 scale, there's the SEX 24. You can see it's closer in wheelbase, but overall it's a much smaller looking vehicle. Whenever I try to think of a scale, I think of how big the person would be getting into that door, right? You can tell it's going to be a lot smaller on the SCX 24 than on the FCX, and then even more so on the 18th scale here. Okay, so much different size. Another 18th scale would be this guy. This is the TRX4M. And again, they're just about the same wheelbase. Very similar track width, straight axles, portal, but they look good next to each other as well. So very similar in size. And the last one we'll compare to is this big guy. This is also an FCX 18. We'll put that in quotes. It's really more of a 16th scale, but it uses the same axles. All the same stuff as the FCX 18s and 24s for the most part, just stretched out wheelbase to get us on this larger scale body. So even though it's considered FCX 18, it's definitely a 16th scale truck. I mean, it's pretty big. Pretty big. It's going to be about the same width though. Funny enough, the track width is going to be the same. But again, if you think about it from a person getting in the truck standpoint, this is much bigger. Look how long the truck is overall. Like huge difference in length. Okay. So definitely closer to a 16th scale. This is a actual 18th scale, which is awesome. And last, we'll compare to a true 24. Here's a Kyosho Mini Z 124 scale, which you can see is much smaller, much, much smaller. We can even compare that to the Axial, which is pretty large in comparison. Most consider the SCX 24 closer to a 1/20th scale. So the only true 24, realistically, is the Kyosho 124 scale. The 4x4s. The cars are actually 128 scale, so they're even smaller. But yeah, and then if you really want to get small, Orlando Hunter, even smaller, 136 scale. Look at that little guy. So little. Awesome. They're so fun. But yes, very different. If you want to go out in the dirt, you want to go on real rocks, you need to go with the 18th scale. These guys are awesome for indoor courses. You can run SCX 24s, again, they're really 20th scale. You can run these guys outside in rocks and whatnot, but you're not really trailing with them. There are a lot of people like to turn these into comp crawlers. They're fantastic, hardcore competition crawlers. The worm gears do help with that a little bit. Tons of torque, very low profile axles. So they're really great for making a really good comp crawler. But again, you're not really trailing with it. Whereas like an 18th scale, you can do a comp crawler and a trail rig. You can run this guy. It's fast enough to walk with it. And, you can go slow enough to get some real technical crawls in there. And they're not so big, you can't just throw them in your backpack. So that's the benefit of it. These guys, though, pretty much dedicated indoor course. That's kind of why they haven't blown up in popularity as much as the 20th scale and smaller or larger, 20th scale and larger, because they're just too hard to run outside. So, but they're very cool. Went ahead and pulled the tire apart for you. So you can see we've got our foam in there. It is a 3-piece beadlock. They are vented, so that's nice. But yeah, tires, they say there's 60 millimeters on the box. Looks like we're just a little under that. Just a bit, tiny bit. 59.5. And then our width, we're looking at right around 24.8, 29, 24.9. Yeah, 25 basically. Like I said, just to double check here. Yeah, right at 59. And again, they are 1.2, excuse me. 1.2 inch tires or wheels. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at in here. 4 screws, and that pops this guy right off. We are on bushings. Nice and greased up in there though. So that's good. All metal gears. We are on bushings. So bushings on a crawler really aren't too big of a disadvantage compared to bearings. And in some ways they're an advantage, especially if you plan on getting the truck wet at all. If you're going to drive through any kind of snow or mud, any kind of puddles, water, anything like that, you're definitely going to be glad you had bushings. Bearings will easily rust, so you definitely need to have maintenance routines with bearings. If you're going to get them wet at all, you have to make sure you oil them, dry them out, all that stuff. And bushings, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that at all. You can literally drive it through some water. Doesn't matter if you dry it off. Maybe just throw some oil in there. But even then, the bushings kind of self-lubricate, so not a big deal. Definitely good for waterproofing. Here's the rear diff. Tons of grease in that rear diff. Oh my gosh. Look at that. And then metal gears in there as well. And then also, again, bushings. So all metal gears all throughout, even in the trans. We're not going to open up the trans in this video, but yeah, it's all metal gears in there. And it's going to be bushings in there as well. So you're going to be plenty waterproofed, which is awesome. All right, I'm going to put this guy back together. Then we're going to do our weights. I also want to show you guys, look at this insane steering angle. Look at that. You're going to have a great turn radius with that kind of steering angle. That's pretty wild for a stock, stock truck. These axles are really good. All right, let's go ahead and weigh this guy. Make sure we're zeroed out first. Yeah, okay, zeroed out. Go ahead and weigh this. 474 grams-ish. 473, 474. Look at that, 53.47 weight bias. We do have our battery in there. Again, if we move that battery tray forward just a little bit, it's going to get us an even better weight bias. And if we moved it up onto our slider here, it'd be even better. Although right now we do have a 50-50 left to right. So moving it to the slider might put a little bit of extra weight on the side and unbalance it. We could always try to move. Let's see, what could we do here? If we put our battery on the slider, we could try to move some of our ESC down here, maybe move our ESC onto the slider right underneath and kind of maybe fit it next to the servo here. That could work. And then that would probably pretty much balance out at that point. I don't know. I think that could be pretty good. Overall, though, for, again, an RTR, 53.47, not bad, especially being kind of a scale rig. Maybe just a little brass here on the diff cover, brass knuckles. Upgrade your servo to a heavier, high torque servo, like an aluminum servo. Maybe even like, they should make, more people should make brass servo trays, because you want all the weight on the axle. You don't want the weight on the chassis. That's one of the reasons that servo on axle is such a big deal for performance, is because it puts the weight right on the axle versus being up in the chassis. You want all the weight to be unsprung. So anything that's basically unsprung. Your links are technically half sprung, so they're not the worst to add weight to, but also probably not the best. And brass is usually kind of sticky, so putting brass links on is, you can get hung up and stuck on rocks when you gouge into the brass. But stuff like a heavy skid plate, not really ideal. Anything up on the chassis, not really ideal. You want all your weight on the axle itself, and ideally non-rotating. So brass wheels or weights in your wheels, not always ideal either. But I think I'd rather have weight in the wheels than have weight anywhere in the links, skid plate, or even obviously higher in the chassis. I think ideally you'd like to lighten up as much of the truck as you can everywhere, with the exception of the axles, especially the front axle. If you can do that, I think you'll have a real good performer. Lowering your overall center of gravity, where most of your weight is, right? If you're to, I wish we could do like a side to side. There's ways to do it, but not an easy way. But if we could do like a side to side, showing the weight on the top versus the weight on the bottom, that would be awesome. This is not going to work. This is not. Don't look at the numbers there, but you get my point. Like if we could actually see what percentages, you want like 90% of your weight down on the bottom, below, like basically in line with your axles here, or even lower if you could. That's why there's companies that make weight hangers that go inside your knuckle, inside your wheel, that actually brings super like tungsten weights that will sit right inside your wheel. They're not part of the wheel, they're part of the knuckle, and then the wheel just spins around them, so it's non-rotating and it keeps the weight, again, as slow as you can. If you can get it below this line, that's amazing. It's very hard to do, but anywhere on the axle I think is solid. Anyway, there we go. 53.47, 50-50 side to side for the most part. I think our body's not straight, but yeah. Very good, very good.
Well, I fired her up on a Saturday morning. Green paint flashing like a backwoods storm. Tiny tires, big soul, don't need no chrome. CR18
We lost the mirror. We got to go find it somewhere over here. There she is. Yeah, I really wish they'd make this out of like a rubbery plastic versus this hard, brittle plastic. Mirrors at least, right? Stuff that's gonna get caught. Definitely would be nice. Anyway, awesome rig. Let's go talk about it. Well, there you have it, ladies and gents. Another awesome truck from Hobby Plus. Only issue we had was our broken mirror. Other than that, everything held up great. Forgot to mention this thing has the upgraded axle shaft pins, or 1.5 millimeter pins. One of the old versions. Some people were having issues with it in the portals, potentially slipping out of the gear and stripping. This guy's been upgraded, so it's got that as well. With all the other upgrades that came along with this V2 Evo, I think this thing's an awesome addition to any collection. Again, with the shocks, the 2-speed, the upgraded axles, all metal gears. Again, the only thing some people might want is bearings, but again, I think that there's a trade-off there, so I can't complain about bushings too much here. Definitely a good sized motor in here, new upgraded motor. The servo seems really strong. Again, awesome truck to crawl with, to trail with. It runs both worlds, high speed, low speed, super fun. If you ever go brushless in one of these guys, you're going to have an insane amount of torque and speed. So you can do all kinds of cool stuff with them. You got 2 different options, well, 4 different options really. 2 convoys, 2 rock vans, tons of options if you're looking to get the new platform. And then again, you can always swap bodies if you want a different body and you just want all that upgraded goodies in there. I mean, it's worth it for just upgraded goodies alone, even if you're not a fan of either of those bodies, which I don't know how you couldn't be. Rock van's awesome, and the Convoy, very unique looking truck, very classic looking styling. But there's a lot of bodies out there, so maybe you'll want to swap it over. But for $130-ish, gonna be somewhere in there, you can't go wrong, guys. $130 for a killer RTR like this. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they get the prices so good on this type of truck with this kind of chassis. Again, 2-speed, 2 servos in there. You compare it to some of the other trucks out there, this is a killer price. So $130-ish, somewhere in there. I think it's $129.99. Prices always change though, so maybe you'll find it on sale. Maybe they sell out instantly and prices go up. It's hard to say. But Hobby Plus has been really good about trying to keep their prices low, especially during all the issues that have been going on recently with tariffs and whatnot. They were one of the first companies I've seen, only company actually that I've seen where they reverted back to pre-tariff pricing once the tariffs came down. Everybody else kept their prices up, but Hobby Plus reverted back to old pricing, which is just, I mean, honorable. That's honorable is what that is. So it's very cool to see, guys. Yeah. Why don't you put riding in the Convoy down in the comments below if you made it all the way to the end of this long video. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I know our videos are long. We try to show as much as we can. Plus, we like to talk. It's what we do. We do YouTube for a reason. We're talkers. And I like to share the information. I like to show you guys my excitement, show you guys the stuff I love, and the newest stuff. It's always fun to bring to you guys. So yeah, riding in the Convoy, put it down below if you made it all the way to the end. Huge shout out to all of our channel members. These guys, they get to see videos early before anybody else without ads. They get a bunch of other perks and stuff. You can definitely check that out. Click it down in the somewhere down here. There's a place. And if you want to be part of the community, you can also join our Discord down in the description below. Channel members do get a special channel in the Discord. Like I said, as well as other perks, but anybody can join the Discord. So definitely do that. If you want to talk about tiny RCs or just RC in general, we have tons of people in there, and it's one place where you can kind of reach out to me and I can answer any questions you might have. Well, again, the community will step in too. They're awesome. They're able to answer questions all day long. So definitely join the Discord. And yeah, I think that's going to be pretty much it. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all those things you do at the end of videos you like and channels you want to support. We got to kill that algorithm, guys. YouTube has been a pain lately. They don't show, they're not pushing as much lately of longer form content. And if you guys like longer form content, make sure you share it with people. Sharing is one of the easiest ways to get our content out there and really show the algorithms that it should be seen. So we appreciate that. Also, if you like our running videos that we do in these, we have a whole playlist of just the running videos and just stuff we've put together, whether we're at events or other things like that. So if you're interested in kind of RC specific music and running videos, check out a playlist. It's somewhere down here or over here. I'm not sure where the playlists show up, but I'll try to share it. Worst case, we'll put it in the description. All right, guys, get out there and build something awesome. Build a car, build a course, build a community, and then smash it, crash it, and bash it. But don't break the expensive parts. We'll get that mirror super glued back on there.
Convoy king of the mini RC.